What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. I mean, I meant to get this video out way earlier today, and as it happens, just life shows up. It is what it is. But I think it's a very important message, so we're still gonna get into it. And it starts actually with me this morning. I was driving around. I had some unexpected errands. I was stopped at a stoplight, and I did what a lot of us do, even though we're not supposed to. And I grabbed my phone. I grab my phone and I'm looking at Instagram, and then I see this. GB posted. And there's a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna read everything, but I'll read his caption and there's a couple points on the slides. But so GB, if you don't know who he is, he's a rapper from Merced, incredibly talented artist. He's popping. He also does a bunch of community stuff. He's an entrepreneur, owns a small business, philanthropy, on and on. All around seems to be a very genuine, community focused guy, right? So he posts this and he says, "The devil is always working. It is very unfortunate that the Merced Police Department intervened and prevented the Merced City Parks and Rec from giving us the permit for this year's give back at the park. After numerous attempts, I couldn't receive proper reasoning or a response in general from them or city officials. But the show must go on. New location to be announced this afternoon." I have the flyer. He posted as well, but I have the flyer, the new location. So I'll give you guys all that information. And I talked to his manager and wound up getting a statement from him. I'll read too, but let's get through this first. "Thank you to everyone who has assisted in organizing this righteous event. I will ensure we achieve our goal in giving back to our community of Merced." And then it says, "California rapper Ghetto Boy is alleging the Merced Police Department has improperly refused to issue a permit to allow him to hold his annual charity event to gather and provide essential school supplies and other items to underprivileged youth." Now, the list goes on. You can check out the Daily Express US. It's like CNN meets British tabloid meets TMZ, right? So check them out. But I think this is important. It says, "This year I applied for the correct paperwork, paid for all the requested insurance, hired private security, and requested additional assistance from law enforcement, off duty for pay or on duty. After all that effort and expenditure, they refused to respond." He added, "Only after countless attempts by myself, my manager, and legal counsel did they tell us we can't throw the event over undefined safety concerns." But then they go on to say what those are. He said, he added, "I feel like I've been discriminated against because of my past. I feel like the city has violated my constitutional rights." While the police department failed to put anything in writing, isn't that convenient? A verbal statement to his manager indicated that he could hold the event only if they canceled certain planned performances by artists. Okay, so here's the new flyer, right? 1600 West Main Street of Merced. Same lineup, same artist, Burner, Big Tone, Rico, GB, obviously. Same benefits, right? You bring a toy to get in. That's the price of admission. Those toys go to like a group of children at the hospital. Free haircuts for kids before school, and all the giveaway stuff and booths and vendors, and it's gonna be the exact same event, except now it's at 1600 West Main Street instead of over there at McNamara Park, right? And we'll get to that in a second. But I want to be clear up front. I'm not anti-cop, okay? As much as some people may think I am, I'm not anti-cop. I'm not anti-construction workers. I'm not anti-computer programmers. Like, I'm not anti anybody for their job, right? This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I am very much pro public safety. And most, if not everybody I know is. Like, when's the last time somebody went outside, "Man, it's just too much safety around here, bro. We need to fire it up a little bit." Like, we all want that for our families, for our communities, for our kids, right? So I'm pro public safety. It's the law enforcement part where things get a little tricky sometimes, and to use this morning as an example, if a cop was to pull up on me when I'm looking at my phone, reading this post by GB, I would have got a ticket. And I would have got a ticket for distracted driving. And I could have argued it, but distracted driving advances public safety, right? People drive around looking at their phones, they run over shit, run into buildings, hit each other, lots of damage and harm and hospital bills. So I get it, right? I understand it. And this is the law, right? To prevent people from doing that or punish them when they do. And I get that. So I could have been mad and argue, well, I wasn't actually driving. I'm stopped at the light. I'm not like those other people. What about you, officer, and all the shit that you have in the front of your car? How are you not distracted driving? Like, but regardless, I broke the rule. And had I gotten caught, thankfully I didn't, I would have got a ticket and I should have been mad at myself, not them. Right. So I understand law enforcement sometimes, but what is the law enforcement purpose in this? Right? Where's the public safety value in what Merced police did here? Because GB showed how he went through the process, right? With Merced Parks and Rec. He did the paperwork, he got the permits, he got the insurance, he did all that stuff, and he knows how to do it because he did it last year. And last year, this is what happened around that same time. Thank you to the City of Merced City Council and Mayor of Merced for honoring my leadership and philanthropy in the community. August 7th, 2023. Okay? So that's not the issue. Maybe it's just McNamara Park. Well, no, here's Merced Young Professional Network. What is this? Back to school giveaway. Friday, August 9th. So that just passed recently. Where at? McNamara Community Park, Canal Street in Merced. 5 to 8 p.m., roughly the same hours as GB's event, right? So what is the issue? The issue is, here we go. The issue is the power of police. Okay, because GB went through all the steps and Merced Police Department put their thumb on the scale Merced Police put their thumb on the scale with Merced Parks and Rec to try to get this thing squashed. And I think events like this are a part of violence prevention, community-based violence prevention. And you can look and be like, oh, no, but it's a concert and come on, man, it's just a show. It's a free little thing. If you've been a kid who's just starting school, right, starting the school year, and you come from a family that doesn't have the resources to make sure that you got your hair, cut before school, or you're not one of the kids in a classroom that's opening up a bunch of wrappers and packages and new stuff, and you don't have a new backpack to get ready the night before and put all your stuff in there as you go to sleep excited for tomorrow with your little outfit laid out. Like, when you don't get to have that experience, it takes a toll, okay? And GB and those who support this event and the artists who come out and everybody else want kids to have that experience, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. I applaud him for it, right? Again, there was nothing wrong with it when the Merced Young Professional Network did it. And people will say, oh, but these are just a bunch of gang members and this and that. I think Burner is probably worth more money than everybody in the Merced Young Professional Network put together. And I'm not highlighting them, to be clear. I ain't got nothing against them. I don't know who's in the group. They're not a part of this in terms of them hating on GB or anything else. So I'm not trying to throw shade their way, but I'm making the comparison. Here is a backpack or school supply giveaway at the same park in roughly the same time frame in the same month, and I doubt they had to spend as much on security as what GB was spending. But they were able to do their event, and GB is not. And he, if anybody is a young professional from Merced, right? He owns a business. He does the philanthropy stuff. So what's the issue? And he says, I think I'm hated on for my past. And I would agree. And I went through the same thing when I came home. I still go through it now, but not as much because I've been home almost 20 years. But I came home from prison December 9th, 2005. And I paroled as a validated prison gang member that didn't debrief and didn't do this or that. And that doesn't make me cooler than anybody else or nothing. It's just my journey. I'm not taking a subliminal shot to anybody whose journey is different. I can just speak to mine. And I came home and I had to do the whole 3 years on high control parole and all that. And law enforcement that I would encounter at these community groups or working with nonprofits or going with parents to a parent-teacher conference and there's a school resource officer there or whatever. Many of them could not believe, refused to believe that I was not trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, that I was not actually doing some gangs work and all this other stuff, that it wasn't an act, right? 20 years later, I haven't been perfect, but I haven't gone back to jail. It's not a fucking act. And I don't think it's an act with GB either. And if we're just talking about violence prevention, this is part of it. But that's where some of these cops get worked up because it's power. It's they say if you're gonna get your life straight, you have to go through the process the way we expect. You need our stamp of approval. If we believe you're up to these activities and you're living these lifestyles and you're a part of these groups, and if you want us to think you're not, this is how you need to prove it. Okay, newsflash, I don't give a fuck what you think. Like your view is not really that important, or at least it shouldn't be. The thing that makes it important is their law enforcement power, right? What a cop thinks of GB or myself or you should be as relevant as what some person you walk by in Walmart thinks of you, right? Who knows, and really, who cares? It doesn't impact your life. But there's a power trip, and that's what this is about, right? Is we will not admit, we can't believe that you could be living a healthy, community-minded life out here, that you could just be being generous for generous sake. There must be some other motive to this. And they come out with all kinds of crazy conspiracy shit that I'm not even going to justify by repeating, right? And I've talked about this before. GB talked about this with Big Tone and AWACS on the Two Sides of the Game podcast. I did a video about that too on my other channel. I'll link to it up here. But this is a repeat issue that a lot of us who make some mistakes and do a little bit of time face. And it's intentional because they want you to have to go through them, right? But again, community-based violence prevention is not law enforcement, right? It's when I was living in EPA, right? A bike came up missing from my front yard, right? There was a bicycle out there, went inside, came out, bicycle was gone. That's a problem, right? And I could have called law enforcement, and said, hey, I think somebody stole something from me. There's laws against that. Figure it out. That's not what I did. And not because I'm advocating for criminal activity. It just, I didn't feel like that was the best route. So what did I do? I went over to the G Market, got at the little local knock that's always over there posted, and was like, look, man, if there was a bike and if it ended up somewhere, where might it have ended up? And he helped me to figure it was, where it had ended up. So that I went over there and I had a conversation with those guys. And I was like, hey, actually, that's my bike. Okay, we bought the bike. Cool, let's work it out. The bike ends up back at my place. Nobody is arrested. No cops are called. No harm, no foul. Right? It was a misunderstanding. I think that's community-based. I think that's healthy. But you know what that doesn't involve? Paying an officer to go drive around and look for somebody. And then arrest them. And then book them at the police station. And then take them down to jail. And then they go to court and they get a public defender. And they got the DA. And then the cop has to come. And he has to talk. And then after court, they got to do some time. And while they're doing time, they got to get these tablets. And then they got to pay to send messages on the tablets and get their mail and all this other stuff and order packages. And then when they get out, they're going to be supervised. Maybe there's an ankle monitor. Maybe this, maybe that. Granted, that's not going to be somebody's experience in California for stealing a bike, but you get the point. This is a really big business. There are a lot of people whose jobs rely on this thing that we call the prison industrial complex. So law enforcement, their job is to twist that up. Their job is to remain relevant, remain necessary. But so then they turn to the community and they say, hey, count on us. Count on us. See something, say something, blah, blah, blah. What some of them don't want is the community handling itself. And I'm not talking about vigilante justice type shit. I'm just saying as a community, we figure out our own stuff, right? And law enforcement is not actually that necessary. But again, that's taking some power from them and putting it back in the hands of the community. People change their lives. People who used to make decisions one way change how they make those decisions later sometimes. It's called growth. It's called getting older. It's called maturing. It's just called life, right? It happens to all of us, no matter where we come from or what our walk of life is. Most people that get out of the joint and don't go back are living great lives, and they didn't need law enforcement's help to do it, right? If anything, sometimes they provide another layer of a challenge or another layer of an obstacle. But they don't want those voices to be shown. They don't want GB's example because GB is a threat to the system that they rely on for their jobs, right? If somebody could just mature and make some better choices and have some discipline, then great. But then there may be less reckless behavior, less bullshit going on, maybe less need for cops to be patrolling around, maybe more informed community members who recognize abusive behavior by law enforcement and maybe organize against that. And now they're being held a little bit more accountable. Now they can't just go take pictures of kids walking home from high school because they're minors. You can't do that without their parents' permission. Like, maybe some things change, right? And God forbid that happens, not in that direction. So I appreciate what GB is doing. I have talked often about my views of policing, right? Which is different than police officers because, again, I'm not anti-cop, okay? If my daughter's walking home from school and somebody jumps out of a car and tries to snatch her up, I would hope that she calls 911, right? And then they should hope that the cops find them before I do. But still, there is a role for law enforcement in our society. And I'm not suggesting otherwise. But there is also a role for GB, right? And that role is vital. And the lack of trust between our communities and the cops has been there for a long time, and shit like this is not going to make it better, right? This is not how you build bridges with the community, because you know what it sounds like? It sounds like the guy from the neighborhood got himself a little bit of money and got some of his buddies together, and he wants to put on a hell of a show for us in Merced, right? It's like, shout out Merced. I've known a lot of people from there over the years doing time. It's not necessarily a huge tourist destination, right? Again, I'm not trying to take shots, but you're bringing these big name artists, and you're a big name artist, and you're a homegrown guy, and our neighborhood's gonna love it. And not our neighborhood like our gang, our community is gonna love it. And you're gonna look out for them, take a little load off. Man, love this dude. Love this dude. That is needed. And a lot of people are supporting that. And what this looks like is the cops are hating. Period. And it doesn't look like it's this officer or that officer. It looks like the Merced Police Department has an axe to grind with GB. Because they try to get him on some bullshit, and they keep throwing his name out there, and they're going around to the schools and telling all the parents that if you listen to GB's music, your kids are going to become gang members and all this other ridiculous shit, right? Like he's the leader of some crazy cult, when all he wants to do is pass off some backpacks, have his little surf store, have his merch, right? Do his thing. He is a positive example. And there are a million of us, right? We're not all rappers. We're not all famous. We can't all get that lineup to come to our town, and that's okay, but you can do something. Don't stop doing that, because that's what these types of cops want. They want us to just go in a corner and be quiet, mind your own business, live quietly. Don't be a positive example. Don't speak up. Don't be like, come on, bro, really? No, don't do any of that. Let us law enforcement do it, right? That's our job. No, man, fuck that. You don't do your job very well, right? So anyways, that's my view, right? I'm glad that the event is going to go forward. And last quick point, I used the picture for the thumbnail on purpose too, right? With GB throwing up a 12. I would say it's a 12. Because there's this other idea of, if you're sincere, if you used to make bad decisions, and when you were a kid, you behaved like a kid, and now you're an adult, you're behaving different. And if you want us, because law enforcement oftentimes thinks that they're the voice of reason for the community, right? So if you want us to believe you, well, why don't you dress different? Nah, look at you over there, you wearing red. Nah, look at you over there, you wearing blue. Why you throwing up a 12? He didn't name the street. I doubt any of his homeboys did. Doubt any of his ancestors did. I could be wrong, but people are proud of where they come from. He's not advocating violence. He's not encouraging that stuff. He's just representing where he is. And if you're a kid from the neighborhood, it feels damn good to see one of your guys make it, right? It used to be that the definition of making it in the neighborhood for the young knuckleheads was a dude that went to prison. And thank God that some of our communities now have people who provide a different example of what making it is. Now, when you look at Merced, somebody could look there and look at GB instead of, big so and so wherever they are, right? That's a good thing. But again, that weakens the system that these individuals. So I'm not for sanitizing your appearance. I think as you get older, your style changes, things change a little bit. It is what it is, right? To each their own. But that doesn't make or break a person. And no, again, who is law enforcement? That people need to radically alter how they dress, what they do with their hands, who they hang out with, what streets they walk down, to satisfy them and their perception. But we don't need you, right? It's no, you're actually being harmful right now, and we'll pass. So, anyways, that's my thought, man. You guys let me know in the comments what do you guys think? And for folks from Southern California, I'm sure the same thing happens down there. Okay, most of my violence prevention work and community work and legal work and everything else has been based in Northern California because that's where I'm from, right? But I'm happy to highlight similar artists in Southern California that are doing similar things for their community because I know they exist. I just doesn't cross my feed as much because that's not where I'm from. But let me know. Shoot me a comment. Shoot me an email, joshua@thehomiehangout.com, and we'll go from there. And then lastly, in terms of last year's thing, that was a lot of laughs in a row. So here's a statement from Connor McCrory, right? That's GB's guy. And he said, the city of Merced has a long history of targeting and attempting to assassinate my client's character. MPD had no right to refuse the permit. This was a child-friendly event, and last year's event was able to proceed without problem. That's the reason I had reached out, because I was pretty sure that was true. I've seen a lot of the clips and that kind of stuff, and I didn't hear of anything wild happening, but I wanted to double check before I come on here and say something. And so shout out to Connor McCrory for getting back to me and giving me a statement that I can use in this video. So anyways, man, if GB ever sees this, keep pushing, homie. Keep pushing. You're doing remarkable things, man. And I look forward to seeing where your future takes you. All right, you guys, help others move in excellence. That's what homies do. Help yourself at the same time because you're worth it. Help your community because they need you. Guys, take care.